This is GrantTalk, hosted by Libby Hikind, founder and CEO of GrantWatch and author of The Queen of Grants.
Hi, I'm Libby Hikind, founder and CEO of GrantWatch.com, and I'm your host today on GrantTalk. I'm also the author of The Queen of Grants, From Teacher to Grant Writer to CEO. And sitting with me is Margaret Leverett, and she is the president of the board of directors of the CHC Foundation. Margaret is a funding source. Her organization gives grants. And today we want to find out who they give grants to, what they're looking for, and why it's so important to listen to a funder. I just want to say something. Even if you're not in the catchment target area of this foundation, you're going to hear today what foundations are looking for, the behind the scenes. And that's important to grant writers to know about. So Margaret, thank you so much for joining us and for educating our community.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us, what is CHC Foundation?
CHC stands for Community Hospital Corporation. And CHC was first incorporated in 1985. And then in 1987, we got our 501c3. We have been giving a lot of good grants.
You have one that's coming available right now, right?
Starting January 1st, they may submit applications for grants through February 28th. And it's not just one grant. We accept all the applications that come in, and we vet all of the grants that we get for each granting session. Then they're visited by a board member, and then at granting session, we all of the board gets together and we present our grants that we went to visit, and then we vote on the merits of the grant and grant as much as we can to each person or to each organization.
Okay. And what's the area? Just let's get that off the table because a lot of people are going to want to know.
Yes. Idaho Falls and 8 surrounding counties. And there are 2 partial counties that we cover. We cover Lemhi County, the eastern portion of Custer County, Clark County, Butte County, Fremont County, Jefferson County, Madison County, Teton County, North Bingham, and Bonneville County.
So we got that out of the way, but what you're going to hear right now is what goes on behind the scenes. That's the most important thing to a grant writer. You submit it, and then you say, I hope I got it. I hope. Maybe we'll spend some money in advance. Don't do that, please. Don't spend any money you didn't get before. But now, very interesting, I heard from Margaret, is they visit. And that's so important. Today's day and age, we have AI. And AI could write your whole grant proposal, but you might lose, right? And GrantWatch.com has an AI grant writing tool. So I just want to say, I'm not a hypocrite. The way I built it was so that you can get yourself organized. It's a tool. It's missing your passion. You need to take what you get from working with it, redo it, get your passion in there, get your backstory in there and everything. And then when a grant comes into a foundation, what happens? Somebody's going to read it. They have to buy into whatever it is you want to run, whatever that program is. So Margaret, now you have all your people on the board. They're going to go visit these organizations. What are they looking for?
When we visit grants, one of the first things we take with us a copy of the grant that they have submitted. And we go through every component. We look at the financials. The financials need to be from the organization that itself, not the parent organization. Like if it's a school district, for instance, we want the financials related to that particular school because the financials have this is a grant of need, along with some other components that we can talk about, but need is really important in what we're looking for. If you've got other grants,
every funder is looking for the need. You have to establish the need, right? And you have to do it. You have to do it in an organizational manner. And, I'm a former grant writer. I don't write grants anymore because I run the company. That need builds that's the foundation for your whole application. Because
Right. That's
from
correct.
your need comes your goals. From your goals comes your objective. From your objectives comes your activities. And then comes your evaluation objectives. How are you going to evaluate it? Right?
Right. Right. So we require that they present in their grant an overview of their organization and what their goals are, what their project is that they're wanting the grant for. And we ask that they come with bids, whether they have a construction bid and get that from their construction company, whether it is equipment that they're wanting to purchase. We want a bid that they have gotten, a realistic bid that they have gotten from wherever they're hoping to gain this product from.
So you
And
want a
then,
real budget. You want a
oh,
real budget, not pie
right,
in the sky. You don't want somebody to say that the laptops are going to cost 4,000 when they're really going to cost 1,500. You want to see it.
absolutely. I want to
Okay.
see it. In addition to the bids, we want a budget. We want to know how much your whole project is anticipated to be. We want to know where that money is coming from. If you have asked for us for a portion of the grant, where are you getting the rest of it? Because goals is that the money be used within 18 months. So we don't want them to still be looking for funding sources. We want them to pretty much have that all in place when they come to us.
And
Um,
partnerships, that's a big part because if you have a partnership with another organization and they're going to bring in a component that they're paying for, you have that in your budget.
correct.
And
Correct.
if they have in kind, if they're getting something from neighborhood businesses, that can go in the budget because they
Yes.
can't say, right, that they need 25 computers and only put 10 that they're asking for from you. Where are the other 15 coming from?
Yeah. How are you going to complete your project, whatever that is?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then once all the grants come in, the board members divide them up, and then we go and make visits to the grants, to the grantees. And the the visit is the best part of the whole thing because we find out so much more about the grantee, the organization itself, and who's in charge, who's going to take care of making sure this grant project goes forward, and after it's funded, who's going to make sure that it continues. And so you get a feel for how that is. We also get a feel that way for grants that we funded for them in the past. Did they take care of the equipment that we got? Is that still in use? Those kinds of things are important to us because we want the money to be used and used well and taken care of so that the money's not wasted,
Right.
basically.
You're the responsible for the foundation funds. You need to make
Correct.
sure that that's happening. Okay. I just want to
Correct.
stop for a minute and tell everybody there is a subscribe button at the bottom. Please hit that button because we want to bring you more and more funding sources and grant recipients in this GrantTalk podcast. We need you to subscribe. There's no cost to you. So just subscribe, then we'll be able to let you know every time we have a new one. Thank you. Okay, so Margaret, they go, and I love it. You know why? Because you can walk into an organization and know right away we don't want to fund them. Everything's on paper, nothing's real, or wow, they didn't even describe themselves as great as they are.
Right. Right. That's absolutely true. It's really important to us that all of the grantees get visited and try to visit the site where they're going to do the project. It may be in a different location as to where they are, but then we go out to the grant or to the location of where they're going to use or build the grant or, whatever it was that they're doing.
How much is your grant offering? What's the range?
We have given as low, I think we over the last 5 years, we looked and pulled some statistics for that, and the lowest one was $667 to an organization, and then we've given as much as 500,000. in the last 5 years to a particular grant.
Wow.
So
That's a big, big difference, right?
yeah, it's a big difference. And we take each grant on its own merits. We start out with an anticipated budget based on, what our corpus is at the time. We try to grant 2.5% of that corpus at each of our funding sessions. We have 2 grant funding sessions a year. One of those is in May, and this one, the one that is open January 1 to February 28th, is the one that they will be knowing at the end of May if they get that grant. So it's about a 4-month lag. And another thing that you mentioned earlier that's really important for grantees to know is that we don't fund anything that has been purchased or done prior to them receiving the grant. So, as you said earlier, it's important not to spend the money until you know you've got it.
Right. And your budget, your money is not to supplant, it's to supplement, right? And that's
That's right.
important. Don't submit receipts and put it in your budget. You want to see the bids. These things are not there yet. Sometimes organizations, they jump the gun. They think because they sent in an application, they got it. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-mm. No, not at all. In fact, we just had an issue with that in our last granting session that we had in October. So, unfortunately, we couldn't do all that they had asked for, and they had gotten the grant. If they just had waited, they would have had the money because we didn't realize until after the granting session that they had already purchased them. They have to send in their receipts. We pay unpaid receipts. And if the amount of that is too high for them, there are ways that we can make that work. We can make arrangements to do the checks to them and somebody else, have 2 people co-sign the checks. So yeah, it's important that you wait so that you send in those receipts, but we can tell by the receipts when the item was purchased, and if it's before the granting session, we can't fund it.
Right. I don't like when somebody applies for a grant that's desperate. And I understand there's desperation out there. But if your organization is desperate, it's been mismanaged, or you didn't diversify along the way. You can't expect a grant to fund you within minutes or days or weeks. It takes months. There's a lot of checks and balances that happen at a foundation before they fund. And the same thing with the municipal governments, right? Federal
Right.
government. A grant is
Absolutely.
it's not your answer if you need immediate funds. That's a loan,
That's
right?
exactly right. And that's part of the reason we do the visits, because you have a sense at that point as to how they're doing. Is this organization going to continue? We don't want to give money to something that's not going to come to fruition. So that's important to us. And I might mention too that we don't fund things like disposable things, or things that are going to individuals. Like, one of the things that we often get requests for are uniforms. If those uniforms are going to go to an individual, say on a football team, if the individual was going to own that equipment, that uniform afterwards, we couldn't fund that. If it's going to stay within the organization and those uniforms are going to be used year after year, band uniforms is another example. So, we can fund if it's going to stay within the organization, but because the end recipient needs to be the 501c3.
Right. So I
So,
can see you funding the scorecard, the
yes,
scoreboard, right? I don't
right.
know,
We
put
have
another
done that.
name, right?
We've done that
Okay.
actually. Yes.
And
Yep.
and do they put your name on it or not? Funded by CHC Foundation?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but most of the time we do get credit for that, which is nice because other people then see that and know to come to see what we can do for them as well.
Right. And your grants are always on GrantWatch, you should know. So
Oh,
we
good.
let everybody know about it. You must get a lot of applications.
We do. We do. It varies. We fund schools, and so the spring session is that one's usually busy, but the October one, because those are due, 2 or 3 months ahead of that October session, and school wasn't in session then. So that one tends not to be as busy a granting session. So, but that
And
varies.
that's something that people should know, that when a
Yes,
grant is due in the beginning of school, well, not everybody's applying in the summer, right? So that's the one you should apply for if you have the time to wait, because
that's
then
right.
you're more likely to get funded. There's less competition. And that happens with a lot of grants. You
Right.
want to apply when the
Correct.
competition is lower, because it's
That's right.
hard. It's hard to win a grant. It's not this like, okay, I wrote, I won, there's a guarantee. No. And GrantWatch gives no guarantees as well.
No, that's good. We do fund municipal communities, so cities and counties, and we also like to see some skin in the game, so to speak, from the cities and the counties and the bigger grant organizations that we want them to have some we want them to have some participation in the funding of that grant so that we're not doing the whole thing or that they're looking for granting funds for the whole thing. The city and the cities are one that comes to mind.
That's really wonderful. Any other tips that you would give a grant writer? They could be writing a grant for any foundation. What do you think applies to everyone?
Well, I think it's important to look at the mission of the organization that you're looking for the grant from. We fund things in education, we fund things for social services, we fund things for the arts, grants that are innovative, things that are new, things that are different. In how the economy has been recently, a lot of the grants that we've gotten are must do's. They're things that have been done in the past, and it's been a long time since they were refurbished. Like, for instance, we funded a grant the last granting session for a roof over where the kids come into daycare. So that
Mm-hmm.
because the ice would build up there off the roof, it was up in Driggs. And obviously they get a lot of snow up there. So we've funded that. A lot of them are must-haves as opposed to more innovative things, but we do like that. That's our goal, is
So
for it to be.
on GrantWatch, we have an AI foundation directory. So a foundation is listed there, and it lets you know what they funded in the past and how much they gave. So here, if you looked at CHC, you'd probably find that they gave 666,000, but it depends on what year you're looking at, all the way to the 500,000, and what they funded. And that's important because you want to be innovative, but you also want to be in their categories of what they fund. You want to look at that. And then we have a AI grant recipient. I mean, we have advanced search drop downs and everything. The AI is a little easier. You can use that. The grant recipient, look at the people they funded, who they actually funded, and what they're about. That gives you all these hints. So when you're applying, you want to check the eligibility. If you're not eligible, a grant takes up your entire organization. Everybody has to contribute something. There's questions, there's financial questions, there's programmatic questions that have to be answered. There's organizational capacity. So you want to look at all of this before you start your application. Sounds like a lot of work. You know what it is? If somebody wanted to contribute to the CHC Foundation, because it sounds like you're really great guardians of the funding, how would they do that?
Well, actually, our bylaws don't allow us to accept donations. We don't take them. The money that we grant comes from the corpus, which was generated back in 1985 from the sale of Parkview Hospital and all of the community people that contributed to making this foundation what it is today. So it all comes from that, all the money that
Okay.
we.
If somebody started an application and they have some questions, would they contact you? Or would they call? Would they email? Or the application is self-explanatory?
We have just redone the application, and it is very much more self-explanatory. And it's on the website. And you have our website, I'm assuming, or shall I give it to you now?
Yes, you may give it to us.
It's office at chcfoundation.net. If you
Oh, so
want to
your
email,
so then your website is chcfoundation.net.
right.
Okay, so that's where they would go if they want to see it. And sometimes, even if you can't apply for this grant, if you're out of the catchment area, looking at a grant application gives you an idea of the headings that you want to prepare for another application. It's like, okay, the application I'm looking for in another state isn't ready yet. So, and their application isn't up. Maybe I'll go to CHC and look at their application. That may give us an idea.
They ask you questions about your eligibility, and it's just one after the other. If you have answered yes to this one, go to the next one. If you've answered yes to this one, go to the next one. So if you answer no, then you know that those are all the eligibility criteria right there in the beginning.
That's great. So GrantWatch puts up a grant detail page. We review your application and your documents, and we write a summation in our own language. We stay away from grant language as much as possible, try to get it as easy to read and fun to read as possible. And then we give you the link to go to the actual application. Or you could go directly there right from our website. You don't have to read our grant detail page, but we like it to be one-page summation. So if you're sitting at the board of your nonprofit, you can pass it out to everybody and say, should we apply for this one or not? And you only have a one-pager. Okay, Margaret, I want to thank you very much. You've been very helpful. It's so important to see the behind the scenes.
It was my pleasure. We like to see new grantees come requesting funds. So I'm glad to reach out to any of those that are looking for grants.
And GrantWatch wants to get the word out. Every single day we add new grants, and we archive grants when they come due. So right now you won't see this grant on our website, but you will see it when it comes available. So I just want to thank your foundation, and keep it up, because we need people like you that watch the money and are being very careful that it's going to the right organizations.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to GrantTalk, powered by GrantWatch. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this GrantWatch channel for more GrantTalk interviews. Subscribe to GrantWatch.com for full access to thousands of currently available grants. Find the books, The Queen of Grants, and Libby's newest book, The Queen of Grants 2, by going to GrantWatch.com/book. Thank you again for spending your time with us.